Hi guys, welcome back to part 2 of JavaScript. Here we will be talking about a bit more events and also the JavaScript functions as discussed in the previous session. So the last thing that we were talking about in the previous session was about the date and time being displayed on our HTML page. Fine. So here also I used a simple event, that is the click event itself. So up till now we have been using the click events itself. So let's go ahead and see uh, hovering event, that is on mouse over or maybe on mouse out. Okay, so these are the events that will be our focus on in my next example. So let's go ahead and try and create that. So here I have my HTML h1 defined and a button defined. So as for now I don't want a button to be clicked, so I have an h1. And what I want to do is I want suppose for example, if my mouse moves on this, then I want to simply uh, select this and say that the mouse is here or something like that. Okay, so here one more thing we will learn, a new thing we will learn over here, that is in the previous session. If you remember, I actually selected an element, get element by ID is something which I did. So here we will go for document dot query selector to select the element based on its tag name. So let's go ahead and see that. So remember that now I'm using an h1 and I'm actually removing the ID on that, and I'm just saying it the on mouse over. Okay, and this event. So if this event occurs, I want to call a function, maybe uh, m over. Okay, uh, data. So that's the function I want to call. And on the same event, that is on the same h1, I want to do another event, that is when the mouse moves out of this, I want to do another event. So let's say on mouse out. Okay, and I would like to call what, maybe reset. That's the function I want to call. So this is what, just a simple text that says JavaScript. And let's go to the JavaScript here. And in the previous example, as I told you that we were using get element by ID, and in this example I have actually removed the ID here, right? So if you see it here, I have removed the ID from there. There is no ID now. How am I going to select the h1 tag that's been defined there? So I'll just say this is h1, and how am I going to select it? So we have a function called as querySelector that does that, and in our HTML, what I want to do here is I just want to say mouse on me, and this will not be a hello. So what I gave, mouse over h over or something, yeah, mouse over data, m over data. And I also created what? I also created one more function that is called as the reset function. So in the reset function, once again, I just want to print it as what was there in the first place? JavaScript. So in a reset function, I'll just create one more function, call it as reset. And in the reset function, once again, we will do a document.querySelector. We'll reset it back to JavaScript. That's what was there before, right? JavaScript. Let's save it. Go to the browser. So JavaScript is written. The moment I move my mouse over this, it says mouse on me, and then it's back to JavaScript. So mouse out, I have written an event, and mouse over also I have written an event. So the moment the mouse moves over to that particular element, that is actually h1 tag, so query selector will select that h1 and then change the value when the mouse is over, and the mouse is out, it again changes the value. So that way we can also use the other type of events, that is the mouse events. Fine. So let me just put this into the repository. Let's copy this, go to the repository, and this is our day 44. So it's not necessarily be a day 44. it is actually a session 44 since I actually started it as day and day, and I'm actually used to this. So that's why I'll be writing it as day 44. It's not really required that you take one entire day to practice the demos and understand every single topic. You can watch the video, you can practice these things, and then it can even be done in 2 hours or 3 hours. And on the same day also you can practice the things. So demo one, mouse event. All right. So similarly, what I can also do is I can track the events on keys as well. So let's go ahead and understand that as well. So once again, I will now clean up everything that I have written here. Okay. And also from the body. So let's just clean up everything and then talk about the thing. So what I want is I would like to place input type is equal to text. Okay. And I want to generate some event here. Fine. So how can we generate the event? Either we can give the uh, ID or something to this and then see what has actually happened. Fine. So let's go ahead and understand that and how do we do it. So there's an input type is equal to text and I'll give the ID to this. ID for this, let's call it as txt or something. Fine. So input type will be created with an ID. So now we can go to JavaScript and then we can do a get element by ID by doing this. Uh, now one more point is that when are we going to generate an event? So I want to generate an event maybe on a key up or a key down or a key pressed. Okay. So if you see the events like there is on key down, on key press and on key up. So if you see your keyboard, when you press the key, that means that when you hit the key and release it, so the key goes down, the key goes up, right? So there are actually three events that is happening when you do a key press. Okay, so what I want is I want to know what is the key that is pressed here. So on key press, what should happen is what I want to generate. So on key press, I want to just call a function. Maybe let's call it as my function or something. Maybe custom key or display key function is something which I want to create. So I don't have a display key yet. So let's go ahead and create a function and call it as display key function. And in the display key, first I will do a document dot get element by ID. The element's ID is txt, right? Or my txt. It is, yeah, just the txt. Uh, and then dot uh, yeah I will get the element by text and I just want to know what is the uh, event, right? So what I will do is I will track the event like this. Let's say E and let's pass the event from here, and I just like to do a console.log e dot, yeah, let's just do a E. Let's save it and see what it gives us. So I have a text box here. So when I click on W, you can see that the entire event is being returned to me just by taking this event here. Okay, I'm passing the argument to this particular function, that is event, and I'm just trying to read what is there in that is console.log E. So if I see the console.log E, a JSON JavaScript object notion JSON object is returned to me that has so many properties here. Like the char code is there, then there should be which as well. So you can see that there is which, char code, then there is code, and then the character should also be there. Okay, so you can see that the key is there, which is W, which is something which I pressed here, right? So I would like to know what is that, which is like I want to use these properties from here. So I can simply say e dot which. I can go for e dot char code. I can go for whether a control is pressed or not, and all those things can actually be traced. Okay, so is it an alt key, is it a control key, all that is being displayed to me. So I want to just show what is e dot which now. Oh, sorry. So I'll just do this now. So whenever I press an enter key, so you notice that all these key codes and everything are displayed to me. Okay. So e dot which tells me the ASCII value of the key that is pressed. So you can see that A 97. If I press capital A 65. So if I press capital B, that is 66. If I press small a 97, small b 98. So it is actually telling me the ASCII value of the key that is entered, right? Now, one more point I will tell you here. So e dot which tells us which key is pressed. And also I have an e dot prevent default. So if I call this particular function, it prevents the default function of the event. So what event? Key event. So if I press any keys now, my text box will not accept anything that I'm entering here. So my text box is created in a way that it does not accept the keyboard inputs now. So you can see, you can try this in your machine. E.prevent default, it will not accept any key entered by you. So I'll put this into the repository, prevent default and events. Okay, so demo2 event and prevent default. So we are making our JavaScript by using JavaScript. We are making our HTML elements interactive, right? Now what I will do is I will enhance my JavaScript code and say that if e dot which is greater than equal to 65 and sorry and e dot which is less than equal to 91, right? So in that case, I want to prevent the default. So let's save it and go here. And if I press A, it's fine. If I turn on my caps lock and try to press A, B, C, D, it will not print it. That means I have actually disabled all the capital case characters. Fine. So you can see that if I again turn off my caps lock, I will be able to write the text. When I turn it on, I'll not be able to write the text. So I've created a text box that accepts only small case alphabets. You might say, where is these things used? So you might have filled your passport application. So if you fill the passport application, only the capital case characters are allowed. Now what I have done is I have changed it into a vice versa case. Here in this case, only the capital case letters will be allowed, all the other text will not be allowed. So that way also we can make use of the events, we can make use of the prevent defaults, we can prevent the defaults based on any condition. So you can create text boxes that accepts only numbers, you can create text boxes that only takes capital case characters or small case characters or whatever you like. Fine. So you might want to create a username and you want to disable the special symbols and all that, numbers and everything. So you can create a text box that accepts only the values between 65 to 91 and 97 to 123. So if only that range is accepted, it means that only pure text value alphabets are accepted. So you can try that one as an assignment for you. Create a text box that accepts only the alphabets. It should not accept any number or special case characters. And also you create one more text box that accepts only pure numbers. So demo 3, prevent default on condition. So it's kind of a capital case letters only text box that I have created now. So that way we can actually fire the key events. Okay, so that way we can also provide in what the validations as well. So Your events can be generated for anything that you like. Like for example, let's also create one more interactive uh, HTML element, which I generally share with my students. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create one more input, and here this input type will be equal to, let's create a date input. So let's save it. And if you see that there is a calendar control being displayed to me. So I can also create labels for this. If you remember, we have discussed about that into HTML. Date of birth. Let's call this as, yeah, date of birth. So there's a date of birth and I want to select a date of birth, and I'm even able to select what this, I am able to select any date of my choice, right? So I want to put some validations on this. JavaScript once again can be used for the purpose of validations. So what I want to do with this particular uh, date control. So first of all, what I want is uh, on change of the value. You can see that there's a change event also available. So on change, I want to call some function. Let's call it as validate DOB. That's the function I want to call. So let's go ahead and call that particular function first. So on change, this particular function has to be called. So let's create that function. On change, validate date of birth should happen. And here I will just do a console.log so that I understand that on change has happened. Okay. So let's call it as on change. Save it, and there we go. So whenever the value is changed, you can see that on change is triggered. Whatever value you select, on change is triggered on that. Okay. So now what I want is, I also want to know whenever an on change happens, at that time I want to know what is the date value that is being selected here in the date control. So how do I get the values? Is there a way to get the value? Let's understand that. So for that, I definitely need to give an ID to this, right? So that I can trigger this. So an ID will be equal to DOB itself. Okay. So now what I will do is I will say document dot get element by ID, and I'm gonna get the DOB dot value. So I want to just check what is there in that. So save it, and I'll store it in a variable. Let's call it as val is equal to, or a selected value equals to, and then perform a console.log the value. Okay, let's save it, and there we go. So if I select any value, you see that the value is being printed to me. That is 20, 25, 0, 8, and 27, which is in format of what? Y, 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 M, M, and D, D. That's the format in which this date is taken. Fine. So that's how we can create the change events and also get the values as well. So similarly, what if I want to set the value? Is it possible to set the value or not? So I can do a document dot get element ID. I can set the value, or also there is something called as the maximum value property available for this. So let's give the maximum value, which should be in this format itself. That is 2025, 2025, 0, 08, and 27. So that's the maximum value I'm giving. Let's save it and go to the control. Now you can see that I can select the date of birth up to 27th itself. So which should be the current date, that is 26th. It should be. So let's only select it up to 26, and all the other future dates are disabled. Why did I disable the future date? Simple reason is that nobody can tell that my date of birth will be tomorrow, right? I cannot select that. That makes no sense at all. So that's what I want to create. But there is a problem in this application. Now, what is the problem? The problem is that I have given a static date here, that is max is equal to 2025, 08, and hyphen 26. What if I use this application tomorrow? If I use this application tomorrow, then the date 27 will still be disabled. If I use it after 10 days, all those dates will still be disabled. That's because I've given a static value. So this is not the way of doing things. If I want to set the maximum value, what I have to actually do is set the maximum value to the current date. In that case, all the future dates will be disabled. Okay, so that's what I have to do now. So my requirement is that I have to get the current date and then set that current date to max. So let's understand how do we do that. We already know how do we set the maximum date by using the max property. And we also know in the previous example, we have used a date function to get the date, right? So let's understand that and organize this one after another to make it a date control that disables the future date. Okay, so let's go ahead and understand that. Do remember this max property. All right, so what I have to do is I have to actually do this max is equal to my document dot get element by id dob. So this is what I have to do, dot max. So if I do this at that time, what happens is future date will be disabled, right? So let's see what has happened. So document dot get element by id looks good. Max is equal to also looks good. So let's save it and see whether the future dates gets disabled. It's not getting disabled. So let's understand why is that. Document dot get element by id dob. Okay, so that's because maybe on change it is not happening. So let's on load of the body itself, let's try and call the validate date function and see how it works. Let's save it. Yeah, so that is because of the event was being generated on change, and the on change happens after I change the date, right? So I don't want that to be changed. So I am now loading it on the body itself. So that's why it is changing the value. So this is what I want to do now. But I still don't want to write this as 20, 25, 0, 8, and 26. So I will just put comments on this, or I will just tell you the problem statement or something. So demo for problem statement. Demo for problem statement. So this is what I want to do. That is, I want to set the maximum property of the date control so that I disable the future dates. But I don't want to do it statically. I want to do it dynamically, where I take the uh, data from the current date and do it. So I will just clean up everything that is written here. Okay. And also this is one important line that I have to do. Instead of taking 202508 manually, I want to take it from date. Okay. So let's say var date equals to new date. So that actually prints us the date, right? So console.log, I will just print the date for you. Okay. So, but the problem here will be again what? Uh, you can see that it is Tuesday, August 26, 2025. Then the time is also appended and all that. But the format that I want is this format, y hyphen mm hyphen dd. So how will I get that? So once again, I'll do a console.log and then I will do a date dot get full year. So this date dot get full year function actually gives us the year. You can see that 2025, the year I got. So my first requirement is done. Similarly, I need to get the month out of this particular date. So get month is a function that can be used to get the months. Save it, and the moment I get the month, it says me 7. So this is the problem. Even in Java, if you do a get month, you will get a month which is less than the current month. The current month is 8, but I'm getting it as 7. That's because months, they begin with 0. Java 8 actually changed that. Java date time API changed it and it starts from 1. But since it is JavaScript, so what we have to do is we have to just do a +1 to it so that we get the exact current month, that is 8. But still I don't want to get it as 8. I want to get it as 0, 8. So we have to append 0 to it. And lastly, the date is something which I want to get. So you can see that there is get day as well as get date. So I will do a get date, save it, and on console we are getting 26. So now we got what? We got the year, month, and the date. So we know that we to get the current year, get full year, get month plus one, get date. Okay, this is what we have to do. So instead of just printing it, what I'm gonna do is I'll comment this console logs just for the understanding. So I need a date dot get full year, and this get full year I will store it into a variable called as let year equals to. Similarly, I will do a let month equal to and let date equal to. Month, date, and the get month should be month plus one, right? So get month plus one, and this should be get date plus one. No, not date plus one. Why would we do a date plus one? So we have DD, YY, and MM, and the year is fine. For month, what I have to do is I have to check if the month is less than 10. If the month is less than 10, at that time what I have to do is I have to say month equals to 0 plus the month. That will actually append 0 before that 8. Similarly, I have to do the same for the DD. If DD is less than 10, then I have to do a DD equals to 0 plus DD. So by doing this, you notice what I get. Just do a console.log. So I want to print the month now. So if I print the month now, you notice it is 08. Okay, it has appended that. The moment we get months which are less than 10, it will append that. Okay, because that's the format that we want. Fine. So now what I want is I want this to be displayed like what? I want this to be displayed like year, month plus date. That's what I want, right? Sorry, it is DD which I have created here. DD. Okay, so this is what I wanted, and also I wanted a hyphen in between them, right? It should be given like this. Hyphen. So this is the format which I was actually looking for, 2025 08 26, right? That's the format I got. So I'll just copy this, and which is taking it from the current date, so I don't need to give a static date. So max is this. Fine. So let's save it, and now the max is changed. Save it and let's see whether the future dates will be disabled or not. So you can see that the future dates are disabled. Even if I change my system time, date and time, it will still disable it from there. Suppose if I change my system date and time to some other dates, it will go back and disable it from there. So you can try this example, and you can change your system date. You can just change the dates and then you can test it. And in my case, I'll not be doing it. I'm sure that it will be changing. Fine. So I'll just copy this and put it into the repository, that is, and this control I have validated it in such a way that it disables the future date. Future date. Similarly, you can also use a min property to disable the previous dates as well. Where would you use to use the control that disables the previous date? It is for bookings. If you create a calendar for a booking a ticket or booking anything, you cannot book a show or a ticket for previous dates, right? So in such cases, you can disable the previous dates. That's where your JavaScript can come into picture and disable things for you. So let's also validate the other things like creating a form, and also checking whether the field is empty or not. And if the field is empty, then at that time we want to just print that uh, the field is empty. Required field validator is something which I want to add. Okay, in HTML, if we just put a required, then it will be a required field validator. But just I want to check when the form is submitted, I want to ensure that some of the fields are not empty. I've already posted this particular example into the repository. I will just cross verify that, yeah, disable future date, and I'm cleaning up everything that I've written. So in my next validation, what I want to perform is that I just want to check whether the form contains the data or not. Form fields should not be left empty is something which I want to test. Okay. So once again, we have a clean HTML stuff given, and let's go ahead and create a form. Okay. So a form tag, and also you will learn how do we do this form submissions and everything. So on submit of the form, what should happen? Okay. So I want to do, I want to create a function. On submit, that function has to be called. That is, let's say validate form. This is the function which I want to call. And to create a function, we have to use a function keyword, right? Okay, validate form is the function that I want to call, and this function would return the values, right? Like it would return true or false. Okay, and this function will return true if the element's value length is greater than 0. Okay, so that way I want to validate this. So let's validate it like this. Let's first write JavaScript itself. So for validating this, I would require the form is there already, right? So I would require an input in the form, and the ID of that input should be given. So let's go ahead and create an input type equals to text and the ID, which will be important because I want to read this element, right? So let's call it as user ID or user ID. Fine. So that's the text. If I want to put some placeholder, I can put a placeholder and all that. And there will be an input type submit. The button I want to create, on click of this button, the form gets submitted. Okay. So let's just save it. And we can create it as input type is equal to submit, or we can create it as a button and then type submit also. Fine. So on submit, I'll be calling that validate function. So let's call it as validate form. That will be called here. Okay. And also, since the functions returns true or false, and I'm trying to validate this, then an important thing has to be written here, that is the form should be submitted only if the return value is true. So that's what I want to tell to my application. So for that, what I have to do is I have to use a return statement as well. So if I use a return statement, what it does is it will submit the form only if uh, what you say, only if the data is valid, or else it will not. Okay, so on submit, validate, that's what I want to perform here. So let's save it, and let's go to the function and then uh, validate that. So I want to do a document again dot get element by id. So the element by id, I think it is user id. Yeah, user id dot value. So I want to get the value and store it into some variable. So let's store it in let user ID. Yeah, we can use that. User ID is equal to document.getElement by ID. So I will check if the user ID, this variable, if it equals to an empty string, or better if user ID dot, yeah, equal to an empty string. Length also can be used if length is less than 0, and all that can be given, or length equal to 0 can be done. So if user ID equal to an empty string, then what I want to do is I want to perform an alert, or maybe I want to put a text or something. Alert. Let's say username is required, and here I will return a false value. Okay, and in all the other cases, the function is gonna return true. Okay, so if a function returns true, the form gets submitted successfully. If the function does not return true, the form does not get submitted successfully. Okay, so that's what I want to write. So let's just save it, and my function is ready and value is ready, and on submit the form, everything is fine. So let's just save it and go to the browser and keep it empty and just hit a submit. It says username is required. Click on this. Now if I give the username and now click on the submit, you can see that the form is submitted. The question mark indicates that the form is submitted. If I type something and click on submit, so let's first go back to this, refresh and click on this. So you can see that there is no question mark on that, right? So I will do one more thing here. Let's say action is equal to, I hope I will have this page.html is there. So let's go to page.html, save it, and let's type in something and click on submit. So it goes to page2.html, right? So I do not type anything here and click on submit. It says username is required. And now you notice it does not go to page.html. That's because the form is invalid. That is why, if you remember, I told you that you have to write this return statement there. Now I'm not writing a return statement. I click on this submit. Yes, the username is required, but when I click on this OK, it submits the form, right? It does not stay on that particular page itself. So you will never see a website where uh, your form is not valid, still you go to the login page. It's like username or password is wrong and you go to inbox. That does not happen, right? So that's why what you have to do is you have to use this return. So this return indicates that if this particular function validate form returns true, then only perform this action, then only submit the form, else do not submit the form and do not provide any do not perform any validations. Okay, do not navigate, do not submit the form. So that way we can make use of this return statement. So a lot of things we have discussed in this function containing the return statement is something that we have discussed here. Also what we have discussed is how when we are validating the forms, we have to make use of this return statement. And we have also talked about a form action. This action property takes us to the page that we desire to reach when the form is submitted. And also we have created an input type is equal to submit. Here we can create a button and type submit, which is all HTML stuff. Hopefully you have now understood this validation as well. So likewise, we can check for the password length. If the password length is less than 6 characters or something, then we do not allow such passwords. So such type of things can also be checked if it is a registration form or anything. Fine. So that way we can create the things. Hopefully it's clear to you. And also in JavaScript we can create functions and everything. So I will first put this into the repository for you, and let's call this as form validation demo 6. So about the functions in JavaScript, I will tell you one strange thing about the JavaScript functions. So let's now first clean up everything that is written here in the body and everything, which is now validation is required now. So I'll just create some simple JavaScript function and then show you what exactly I mean by the strange thing of JavaScript functions. So I create a function, let's call it as test function. And then just this test function does what? Console.log. And I'm just gonna write test function. Okay. Or let's call it as my test function or something. Fine. So I'm just calling that function here. Okay. So it should call that particular function, right? So if you see on the console, just refresh this, you can see that my test function is called here, right? I'll just increase this. Okay, so you can see that my test function is called. Similarly, uh, this particular function, let's say that it takes two variables a and b, and I would like to do a plus b here. Okay, a plus b, and here for the test I'm passing in 1 comma 2. So which should do what? 1 plus 2, 3, right? So my test function 3 is something that is printed very well and good. Similarly, I want to call this function once again. Okay, I pass 5 and 5. So obviously that should give me 10. The function is called, it is giving me 10. Now, do we have a test function that takes no argument? We don't have it, right? So if we do this in Java, so at that time it throws us an error saying that there is no function called as test. But in JavaScript, you can see that my test function is called and not a number is being called. Not a number is because two undefined variables are created. So if I give something like this, equals to 0, which is a default value. If you remember, I told you in the first session of JavaScript that ES6 allows us to give default values, right? So this is what I mean by that. ES6 allows us to give default values of the variables. That is even in fact the arguments. So that's possible here. So default value 0 is given, 0 is given. So if I pass in the values, that's fine. This is also fine. But notice the third function call that I'm doing. I'm calling the function without passing any arguments. So that is all valid for JavaScript. Similarly, if I call a function like 6 and 9 and then 8, then 7, then 5. So what happens is the 6 and 9, this value goes to A and B. Rest all values will be lost in fact, but still the function call is valid. So you can see that the function call is valid. 6 and 9 goes into A and B and that is added and rest all are ignored. So which actually means that your arguments of the functions are not considered into JavaScript. So you can create a JavaScript function with argument and you can call it without argument. You can create a JavaScript function without argument and while calling that particular function, you can call it with the arguments as well. Okay, that's one strange thing about JavaScript. So, but yeah, obviously, if I am a programmer, I would not be doing all those stuff. But yeah, JavaScript allows us to do things like that. Okay, so in our next session, we will be talking more about the advanced functions of JavaScript. That is, we will be talking about uh, callback functions. That is a function passed in as an argument to the function, and we will talk about the arrow functions into our next session. Okay, so do wait for that particular session, which will include callbacks and arrows, which is going to be a very interesting topic again. And there itself we will talk about, if time permits, we will talk about the JavaScript object notions as well. Fine. So I hope you're enjoying the series, and if you're enjoying the series, do share it with your friends so that we all learn JavaScript, Java full stack easily, and we can learn it together. So you prepare accordingly, and it's not a fake promise or something, or I'm just hyping the things. It is like if you complete the series and also the shorts that I create, which specifically focuses on the interview questions. If you complete the series and if you complete the shorts series as well for Java interview questions, I can guarantee you that you will definitely end up to as any job, because the entire series first focuses on learning Java full stack in details. Second, it focuses on preparing for interview. So mainly this series I created to help those freshers or the graduates or people who are switching the job and all to actually get a job, and so that I can help people be more productive and get the job in the industry. So hope that purpose is not defeated. So obviously it requires time and efforts and a consistent effort to reach to that particular goal. I always encourage you to practice more and more, and I would definitely be giving you the assignments. From a long time I did not give you the assignment, so I'll be putting up the assignment for JavaScript into the repository. So do look for the assignments repo into the UI repository, and complete the HTML, CSS and JavaScript assignments as well. See you in the next video. Thanks for your patience.